Vice President Kamala Harris heading to Arizona today. The Biden campaign seizing on the state, upholding a near-total abortion ban. Meanwhile, former President Trump, he came out against it. Watch here.
Did Arizona go too far? Did Arizona go too far?
Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly.
Okay, Kellyanne Conway is a Fox News contributor. President Trump making that announcement at 6:57 a.m. on Monday of the day that we had the eclipse. I know it's been a long week, but pretty interesting that the White House was able to say immediately, like, okay, then we're going to send Kamala Harris to Arizona so that they can campaign on this. How do you see it all campaign? I've been dying to talk to you.
Yes, and in fact, this is one of the worst possible outcomes, I think, for the pro-life movement, who has a great opportunity now to get it right. They can explain to people what some of these state laws are. I think states' rights means that the White House is going to try to make President Trump and Republicans eat and own the states that had trigger laws where there's no abortion except to save life for the mother. At the same time, you have a number of ballot initiatives that the left are now putting forward. And the problem with those is they're being disingenuous about them. They're saying reproductive freedom, all state constitutional right to an abortion, with very few guardrails. Here's what's happening in Arizona. The state Supreme Court upheld a 160-year law. The current law is one that Republican Governor Doug Ducey signed in with the help of the legislature. 15 weeks. Second trimester, woman knows she's pregnant, baby can feel pain. The alternative ballot initiative now would go up to 24 weeks. So in many of these states, including Florida, these ballot initiatives would make it more permissive on abortion than pre-Dobbs. I would say this to Vice President Harris today in Arizona. You are supporting your party is for 39 weeks. No question, including in her home state of California, Illinois, New York, Colorado. In Arizona, if the ballot initiative passes, it's 24 weeks. There are babies surviving and thriving, being born at 24 weeks or earlier. Can we get you, Vice President Harris, to acknowledge that, to say that science and medicine, thank God, and technological intervention has allowed these babies who are born prematurely to survive and thrive? Can we get you from 39 weeks to at least that point? And then can we start moving hearts and minds? And the big question for everyone is this, Dana and Bill. So what is states' rights? Is it when the state Supreme Court speaks? Is it through a ballot initiative? Is it through the governor and the state legislature working together? Is it through the trigger laws that have been on the books? I can argue it's all of the above. So the White House is going to continue to allow the lies to fly on this. And President Trump made very clear that he was the one who put the 3 Supreme Court justices on there. He's a pro-life president. I believe he will be a pro-life president in the future also. And we also have to show compassion. An unintended pregnancy includes a baby and a mother. And there is great legislation like Marco Rubio and Ashley Hinson right now. They're trying to support people who want to be parents, who find themselves in situations where perhaps it's unaffordable and inaccessible, but they should realize that choices means you have many different choices. We need to protect life. I believe he'll be a pro-life president, and I think the Democrats are going to go too far on this issue and ignore the border and inflation and crime in the Middle East and Ukraine and things that are really vexing Americans.
Kim Strassel has this great line in her column today in the Wall Street Journal. She said, Democrats were always going to berate and misstate Trump's views on abortion. He could announce he's the new head of Planned Parenthood, and they'd still claim he wants women in chains. So was he going to end up in this position no matter what he said about the issue, whether he was going to be for a federal ban or leaving it to the states?
Yes, well, a federal minimum standard is a bill that many senators had signed on to. A number of Senate candidates were talking about. It's actually the Dobbs fact pattern from Mississippi. But I think your essential point is right. And President Trump knows no matter what he says or does, the White House and the political campaign are going to lie about his position on abortion, are going to lie about the fact that he is the most pro-life president in history and will continue to be, but that he is also saying, let the people decide, looking at Justice Alito's opinion, which said Roe and Casey are overturned and the issue will go back to the states where it always had been. That doesn't mean that people whose day job in Washington don't have a role. I believe they do. I believe if you're going to say states' rights, then why are you talking about policing, crime, school choice, school board elections? Those are local issues, not even state issues. I want everybody in the Republican Party in Washington to talk about everything. And Dana, it's very simple. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Our first right is life. We believe that the United States Senate, the House of Representatives, the President of the United States, and Vice President do have a role in protecting it. But I think what President Trump did was what he did on IVF. He's trying to lead and have other people come forward with their opinions. And and the other side, by the way, let's keep our eye on the ball. The other side is for abortion anyone, anytime, anywhere. As we've learned more about gestation development, fewer Democrats will call themselves pro-life. In fact, none of them do. They're for abortion with no guardrails, no reasonable restrictions.
I think it's a really good point to see if any reporter would ask Kamala Harris, are you willing to accept some of the science and technology that we have today? Kellyanne Conway, it's important to have your voice on this development. The story is an issue we're going to see for the foreseeable months. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.